I want to clarify something that the entire audio community has wrong and about hearing. That when people say, oh, you are an audiophile or you are a musician, how good your hearing is, and then people automatically associate that it must be the ears, it must be the ability of your ears to hear really high frequencies. That's why they have good hearing. But my experience that no, it's almost unrelated. It's not about how good your hearing tests are. It has nothing to do with how good an audiophile you are or how good a musician you are. And so why am I saying that? That's from my experience and also from my friends' experience around me. The most striking one was my mentor Stu, who was kind of like a golden ear of the golden ears. So he had extremely legendary hearing, and it's not just by me, but people like Ray Kimber, Mark Levinson, and many others regarded him as someone with exceptional hearing. And by the time they knew him, he already had the hearing damage that he suffered during the shipyard. And as I said in my previous videos, he overcame this hearing damage, but he did not overcome this damage by healing his ears, because what hearing damage he suffered, he never recovered it. And why am I saying this? Because I talked to Nelly, who remembered better about Stu, and then she said that Stu had an audio test for his hearing, and that showed that he had a permanent hearing loss in the high frequencies that never came back. So he had neurons that died, sensory neurons that died. I was mistaken about that. I thought that he did not have lasting damage, but because he never gave any hint about it, no one had the slightest hint. We knew him for decades, and under we I mean like thousands, maybe probably thousands, at least 100 or more audiophile, and much more that he met around the world. No one had the slightest inkling that he had permanent hearing damage, because to everyone, even members of the Philadelphia Orchestra, or high-end company owners or engineers, everyone thought that he had the finest hearing of any person they ever met. And that's because he learned how to overcome it, and then after a while it didn't even bother him. He was aware of his injury, and then he had that training method that he used, and then he could just analyze any sound, any music, and he was absolutely phenomenal with that. And speaking of myself, I also noticed that it is not so simple, like you have hearing damage or you have excellent hearing or bad hearing. We are living organisms. It means that we fluctuate. Sometimes I have better days, sometimes I have worse days. Like I had a period of my life about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was working at that very noisy work environment, where in the morning my hearing was okay, and then I went to work, and by the time I came back from work, I couldn't even hear people talking. My ears got so tired during the day. And on the weekend my ears recovered, but by Friday afternoon I was just barely could hear anything. And then as I stopped working there, my hearing just was better and better and better. So apparently I did not have permanent damage there. It was just an extreme drain. And I think any one of you who went to a loud concert, you experience that next day you have problem hearing, right? And then after a few days it goes away. Recently I had an experience like that when I had the volume cranked up really high on my system because I'm listening to audiobooks, and when you hook up your phone to the system, its output is super low, so I have to crank it up really loud just to have any small volume coming out of it. And then I switched over to Netflix, and I was sitting next to the loudspeaker right here, and you know, the Netflix logo came in when it booted, you know, like tudum, but at about 120 dB next to my ear. My system could handle it easily. It came out like really clear, really amazing sound, but for 2 days I had hard of hearing for that ear. It was so loud. Anyway, but after that, fine. Now my right ear has been long back to normal. So depending on how much wear and tear you suffer during the day, how much noise you are subjected to, your hearing can fluctuate, and depending on your mood and awareness, what you hear and how you can analyze the sound can vary tremendously. So for myself, when I'm well rested and I'm here, so it means that my mind is clear and I'm well rested, I'm in a good mood, then I can tell a lot of things about the sound. And it's very easy. I don't even have to pay close attention to it. I can be talking with someone, talking stories, and I just hear it in the background. I can tell you, your left tweeter is out of phase, by the way, and you have these and these frequencies that need adjustment, and you have problem with your deck, etc., etc. And I can tell that by, you know, maybe like standing next, not even in the room, maybe in the kitchen, and just hearing it while talking stories. But that only when I'm well rested and in a good mood. If I'm, let's say, stressed out, Friday afternoon, tired, like, you know, just leaving away in the traffic, I just arrived, you know, after all the traffic noise, after all the loud noises at work, lack of sleep, cumulative lack of sleep, and then I go there and I can barely understand what you are saying, let alone like telling anything about the stereo. Who knows what's your stereo doing? I'm barely awake to make sense out of what you are trying to say to me, you know. And so it's those things that we all need to be aware of. So when you try to be conscious about your hearing and critical of what you are hearing, just take this into account, that are you well rested? Are you in a good mood? Because if you are stressed out, if you haven't had enough sleep, then what you are hearing right now is not even close to what your ears and brains can do to you, because the neurons, they always transmit the same signal what you are hearing, but the big difference is the awareness, is the higher brain centers. There's just a bunch of centers in the brain that process the sound, and if you are tired, then what those lower centers do is they are filtering out as much as possible to keep you even less stressed than what you are. Basically, when we are tired, we are fatigued, stressed, we cannot deal with external stimuli, and that's why the brain just receives a very low amount of information to the conscious center. So I hope this helps a little bit and might explain if you experience like really big differences, that sometimes you can hear so much, sometimes you don't hear anything. It's probably connected to your mood, to your state of awareness, and of course, if you are for a long time in a bad mood, bad state, that that can become the new norm. And to a degree you might come out of it, you might improve, but it's totally up to you. And it's an individual journey for all of us, and all I can do is just share my journey. So have an amazing day. Bye bye.